going to tell you straight up, I'm not wearing my jacket this morning, so I'm Gemini, so you probably see a different personality. I don't know why I'm not wearing the jacket, because I'm actually pretty cold. It's obviously wonderful to be here again. It is truly a remarkable place, this, and we love all of you, and we wait. My granddaughter's been counting the days to see snow. It was a hard conversation in the plane. Obviously, Dylan's living up here now, so it's a bit tough for us. I think I've only ever been away from him for 20 days his whole life. So this has been an adjustment for all of us. But we're happy that he's here. We're happy that he can help out. And we certainly hope that we will be here soon. To Scott and Teresa, our friends from New York, we've become very good friends with Teresa over this last couple of months, and Scott's her husband, so we have to deal with him as well. But we're excited that you're here, and all of you that are up here, we are obviously glad that you are here. Last time I was here, Diane caught me afterwards, and she said to me, listen, the next time you're here, can you please speak about righteous and unrighteous anger? Obviously, I'm pretty sad that she's not here, but I decided to do that, and this morning in class we did discontentment. One of the things that discontentment breeds in people is actually anger. So we'll be talking this morning about self-righteous versus righteous anger. We all know that we all lose it from time to time. There are times when you just become angry. And you have to ask yourself at times like that whether the anger benefits anything. It's really the difference between what self-righteous anger and righteous anger is. So let's clarify the meaning of self-righteous. It is a state characterized by certainty, and especially, now listen to this, a state characterized by certainty, especially an unfounded one, that one is totally correct or morally superior to another person. Unfounded. Filled with or showing conviction of being morally superior or more righteous than others. In other words, smugly virtuous. Confident of one's own righteousness, especially when smugly moralistic, and intolerant of the opinion and behaviors of others. Sounds like we're making a political statement here.
Yes.
To be righteous, it is to be in a right relationship with God. To be self-righteous, sanctimonious, pharisaical, is quite the opposite. I've been told, especially when I was new in the church, that we should never be angry. The church says you should never be angry. The Bible says in Matthew 5:22, it says, but I say to you, everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. And so I actually thought, till I read further, that we should never be angry. Well, I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible because you probably had kids. And if you don't have kids, you will have kids, and you will realize, although you might think as a kid it's impossible, you will be angry. The problem is context and reading. Most people who want to justify something use a verse to justify something, but not the context of the passage or the book. If you read that better, you would realize that. We're not going to go through that because it's not the lesson. We will have a lesson on that one day. The problem is that the anger spoken of there, but I say to you, everyone who is angry with his brother is liable to judgment, is the type of anger that is directed towards the person and not the sin. It's directed towards the person. It has less to do with the sin than it has to do with the person committing the sin. You are angry at the person, not at what they are doing. Further, some ancient manuscripts actually include without cause. So it would say, but I say to you that everyone is angry without cause is liable to judgment. Big thing, without cause. There are causes to be angry. Greg was saying that he waited. Greg, till you had to go home. I've been in that situation actually more than once. When I was young, I was the epitome of testing my father's patience. But do you understand already the difference between righteous and unrighteous anger? So, an example of unrighteous anger, road rage. you're driving down. We've all either experienced it or hopefully not being the offender, but we're all being victims of it. When one driver cuts off another driver who is having a bad day, and that driver reacts tremendously harshly towards you. The anger, had it been directed at the offense, might have been corrective. People have cut me off and I've said, excuse me, be careful. And I'm not angry at the person. I'm angry at the person that he wasn't thinking that, if you can understand that. Yes, he committed that, but it's not that I'm hateful towards him. Here's what happens though. Things quickly escalate when anger becomes severe. And sometimes somebody is shot. Sometimes an innocent child. In Dallas, we had a child shot in the head in December, New Year's Eve, because of anger. It was directed at the wrong people. It was directed at the wrong car. That's what anger does. Anger takes lives. Not always physically, sometimes emotionally. Here's what I said. The offender has essentially become the offense, resulting in severe action. Think about that. When the offender becomes the offense, you lose sight of their humanity. And you only see the offense. This thing cut me off. This thing, honestly, you're going to be 5 seconds later. But now, I pull a gun. Because now, humanity's gone. And when humanity's gone, I can do whatever I want. Have you ever been the one who actually did something? I know I have. You just pull out. I mean, you didn't see the motorbike coming. Now the motorbike misses you by sometimes a mile. He gets all mad. But you know what I'm kind of getting is, oh, dude, come on, we all make mistakes. When I do it, it's a mistake. I remember once dropping a glass in my dad's house. You and I to drop it. Look, glasses were apparently very expensive when I was growing up. If you dropped one, my dad went postal on you. But one day I saw my dad drop a glass. So I thought my dad was going to go postal on my dad. He didn't. He looked at me and he knew what I was thinking. And he went, that was a mistake when I do it. It wasn't when I did it. I mean, it slipped out of my hand. But we don't treat people the way we want to be treated. Start getting towards the scriptures. Unrighteous anger. In Numbers 20, we're not going to go through all of this long. Moses gets angry with the people of Israel. And in his anger, calls them rebels and strikes the rock to bring forth water twice instead of the once as commanded him. You see what anger does? He knew what he had to do. But because he became angry, he lost his sense and did something he was not supposed to do. And you know what that gave him? No promised land. He would never see it. When you become angry like that, I guarantee you, you do the same things. While you can repent, if you don't, something happens before you do. If you live in that anger, if you live in that state, you will not see it either. Proverbs 29:11. A fool gives vent to his spirit of anger, but a wise man quietly holds it back. There are talkers and thinkers. I'm a talker, listener. I'm a talker more than I'm a listener because I'm a minister and a counselor. But I find talking very easy. I have to concentrate on listening. Talking is natural. So I have to be careful when I become angry that I don't speak my anger. My mom is a listener. She will take what you say, no matter how offensive it is, and she'll mull over it and digest it and think about it, and she will come back calmly. I have to make myself do that because I want to react with my mouth before my brain catches up. That's the problem with us in the world. Instead of holding back, Moses acts what? Impulsively. That's what anger makes you do. Just remember, we act impulsively too. We are not above that. Rash anger wants to destroy somebody. It does not want to build up. When you become that angry with somebody, you want them to hurt. You want them to feel the pain you feel. And sometimes, in abusive situations, that is a real pain. I do not take that away from you. But there are times when the pain is, you don't like somebody. You don't like what they've done, but you want to hurt them, so you refuse to fellowship in this world, out of the world, in the church. You refuse to even accommodate them at all. That's anger that did that. That is not the Spirit of God. That is not the Spirit we are called to act upon. Perfect story. Cain, Genesis 4, 5 through 8. But for Cain and his offering, he had no regard. This is God. So Cain was very angry and his face fell. The Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? And why is your face fallen?" The Lord knew, but he wanted him to answer. If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. When you're angry, sin crouches, waiting. But you must rule over it. Cain spoke to Abel his brother, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. I have a sermon, I think I've done it here. 1 Peter 5, 8 and 9. Be aware of your adversary, the devil. He's like a hungry lion looking for someone to devour. When you become angry, he devours you. He's looking for something. Rash anger makes, I'm sorry, this might hurt your feelings, it hurts mine sometimes too, makes a fool of you. Ecclesiastes 7:9. Be not quick in your spirit to become angry, for anger lodges in the heart of fools. You can be angry, but if you let it lodge there, if you let it live there, if you let it stay there, you will live that anger day to day. Again, not called to do that. Can you become angry? Yep. When I become angry with my son, either one of them, or my granddaughter, there's a purpose to my anger. I'll say one thing, my dad was a very angry person. He still is. The only way my dad did not sometimes hurt me, and those times, he would go, I know this sounds weird, but my dad wasn't in the church. My dad would have a beer before he whipped me. Because he knew if he didn't, he was going to genuinely hurt me. And the times my dad had the beer, while I had that anticipation, I was much happier knowing what was coming than when he didn't have the beer. This kind of anger is the anger of man we are warned against in James 1:19. James 1:19. Know this. He says, know this. James says to his readers, know this, my beloved brothers. Everyone should be quick to hear. Listen. Slow to speak. Don't speak as fast. And slow to anger. For the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. Self-righteous anger is self-serving, hateful, destructive, and above all, without forgiveness. Self-righteous anger has no forgiveness to it. Its purpose is to destroy. Its purpose is to hurt somebody. And the more hurt they have, the more justified the offender feels. I don't even want you here. I'm so angry with you that I want you to leave and go somewhere else. Be somewhere else. I never want to see you again. I counseled 2 ladies. One said something about the other one's husband. It was uncalled for, hurtful. This is 7 or 10 years later. And one of those ladies, the one who actually said it, will not forgive the other one. In fact, they actually left the church because they could not. The one could not look at the other one. I declare to you that that is not righteous anger. That is self-serving, self-righteous hatred, nothing else. It is about murdering the offender in your heart, if not physically. You murder the offender. They are dead to you. You don't want to be with them. You don't want to be around them. You want them gone. And if they die, you would not be at the funeral. Directing anger at the person instead of the action will prevent you from being able to forgive them, since they, again, have become the discretion. When I see you as the offense, I don't have to forgive you. Because there's no humanity in me. But where's my humanity? When I refuse to see yours. Self-righteous anger is the most effective tool Satan has. He divides marriages. He divides families. He divides friends. And he even divides people in the Lord's church. I want to tell you something that I feel very strongly about today. If you want someone to come in that door and to sit in this chair next to you, to fill these chairs, so hopefully one day this building is too small for the people in Warwick who want to attend church, you have to act the way God wants us to, because people will not walk into unaccepting environment. We have people, not our church, I counseled a church, I was a mediator for a church a couple of months ago. When the person walked in, one of the men walked up to her straight away and said, "I do not want you to talk to so-and-so. Do not even sit on her side. She's that ugly." Now, he didn't mean ugly physically, he meant ugly, I suppose, I don't know, everything. They called me and I had to mediate that couple and the other one. You know the people who came in, looked at him in the third or fourth meeting and said, "We want you to know that we love you and we forgive you. But we want you to know that you are required to love her and forgive her. Because we don't want to be part of a church that cannot even love each other." I might have said this to you before, I say this often. My dad is not a Christian. My dad's an atheist. That hurts me a lot. But he says something that's really hard to defend. He doesn't say there's no God. He knows there's God. He doesn't say that there's no Jesus. He says, how do you want me to be part of a people who do not even act the way they are required to act? It's really hard to defend that. Because I know what my dad's talking about.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what your offense to me is. I am required to forgive it. That's what we spoke about last time I was here. It is required. Matthew 18 and Luke 17 both say forgive. Self-righteous anger, listen to this, harbors hatred for weeks, months, and even years. Years. Do you know someone who's been angry with someone for 10 years or 15 years? I'll tell you something I've never said in Dallas before. This is the first time I think I'm ever going to say this to anyone besides my family. I was abused by a man growing up. I hated that man for decades until I realized that it was making me angry with the world. I was angry with one person, all the right in the world to be angry. But the only way I was going to get over that anger was to actually forgive him and move on. And so I did. I don't know where he is, I don't care. I hope he's a Christian. I hope he found the Lord. I just let it go. I will not let anger control my direction in life anymore. I have the best older son, the best younger son, the best wife, the best grandchild, the best daughter I could ever want. I have the best family I could ever want, extended family. I live in the best country in the world. I live in the coldest part of the best country in the world. But I do. And this about self-righteous anger. It is falsely empowering. You think you are powerful when you become angry. Have you ever noticed that about people? In your family, when your husband or your wife, somebody becomes angry, there's some sense of power in them. It is empowering to be angry. That's the first thing we teach in counseling. Parents who are angry with kids. If you do not want your kids to be angry, do not be angry with them all the time. You will empower their anger. And when you want to hit the child, go have a glass of Coke. Go have a glass of water. Go have a glass of tea, not a beer. But if you can have a beer, better that than beating the child because you're angry. Wait. Give it a break. And then think about what you do. We don't always want to hear these things. Seriously, as a minister, you know what I want to preach every week? God's love. And we do. Charismatic preachers. Joel Osteen down in Houston. He does it every week. But it's not how we grow, and it's not how we learn. Galatians 5:19, 5